Hello and thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been about a month since I've seen you and I apologize, but I was off to Canada and I was hanging out with my mom and my family down there and we had a really great time. Even though I was only there for 2 weeks, the jet lag kills me every time, so I haven't been able to get recording or working because I've just been too busy at home setting up the pool and getting ready for summer and then dealing with being really tired from jet lag. So I've got some updates at the end of the video. If you want to stick around, you can see the pictures or a few pictures from my trip home to see my mom and family. In tonight's crafting video, we are going to do some masking and make a really fun, quite colorful background, but really disorganized organization, if that makes sense. I don't know how else to describe it. I've got this new stamp set, which is from Catherine Pooler, that I bought before I went off to Canada, and I really wanted to use these butterflies. Now this stamp set's great because it's a nice solid stamp set. If you haven't got a solid stamp set, then you could always do a little bit of watercoloring or something and fill in your stamps. Just use a nice light colored ink for the outline, and then you could fill in your images. But I like these ones because they are solid, and the technique we're doing tonight, I want to have nice solid colorful images because we are going to be layering them on top of each other. So today I am using stamps, solid stamps, I'm using inks, and I'm using some masking paper. I'm going to use Gina K's Masking Magic because I know I can layer and layer and layer, and I can use quite a lot of ink, and it's not going to leak through or bleed through. So if you're looking for a really good masking paper, Masking Magic is the best one I've found. I've used so many and it is so good. I'm also using the coordinating die set for these stamps. If you do not have a coordinating die set, all you need to do is stamp your image down onto the masking paper. So whether you're using like a post-it note or whether you're using this Masking Magic, just stamp it down and then you just freehand cut around that image and you'll get the same sort of thing. But if you've got a nice set like this where it comes with matching dies, it makes it quick, it makes it easy, because all you have to do is die cut out the images in the masking paper. So that's all I've done here. I've die cut out these stamped images using the coordinating die cuts, and I'm layering down the masking paper onto my images that I've just stamped. Now my butterflies are my focal point, so I've done one of each of those, and they've also got these little sort of bits of foliage, and they're great for being little fillers. So we're going to kind of create a background now, and we're going to fill in all that white space and put as many of these in as close as we can together so that we've got as little white space as possible showing through our butterfly images and around my butterfly images. So you want to let them dry a little bit before you go ahead and put the Masking Magic on, which is why I was like fanning it. I just wanted to remember and remind myself that you want to let it dry a little bit just so that it doesn't absorb into the masking paper too much. But my ink does dry quite quickly, so I don't have to worry about waiting for too long. So all we're going to do is stamp our images down, and then we're going to mask them again. So we're going to add some more masking on. This masking paper is also really great because it's super thin. So it just means that when I'm doing all this stamping over top 2 or 3 layers of masking paper, it doesn't actually make it that much thicker than the cardstock itself. So I'm just making sure that when I'm stamping my images down, I am picking colors that are not the same color as what's underneath it. So I've got sort of a rainbow of colors going on. Now I want to die cut out some more of these masks, and obviously I don't want to die cut out the butterflies, so I'm just snipping them apart a little bit so I can then cut out some new masks for just my foliage area. And I did this about 3 times. I have like 3, I think, in total of the foliage that I can then stick on top of those and layer up. This is quite easy to do while you've got like a TV show on or listening to some music. You can just plunk away, stamping down, add some more of your masks, stamp again, add some more masks, and then the big reveal at the end is the really fun part. When you go and peel off all those masks, you get this gorgeous result where you have this messy, organized chaos, and it looks really awesome. It's a great way to create a background. And if you cluster them towards the middle of your card, it gives your eye that focal point where you will have your eye naturally drawn into that center bit. So here I'm going to remove all my masks and we can really start to see the magic showing. Right now it just looks like a hot mess. I've got all these layers of masks on top of my card. But when we peel them all off, you get the organized chaos. So it's still lots of colors, lots of stamps, but it looks like it all goes together. Because we've masked off every stamp that we've used along the way, you get to see each individual stamp and nothing's really blurred out. And because our butterflies are the focal point, they are crystal clear. There's nothing stamped over them per se. Everything else looks like it's underneath it. So those butterflies are on the top. Now we can go ahead and add our sentiment and decorate a little bit. I have these dies and stamps from Trinity Stamps. They are my favorite go-to sentiment collection that I've been purchasing. I think I've got the whole set now because I love them so much. So I die cut out the word you, and I backed it with some sticky tape, double-sided sticky tape on my black card. Now, because my black cardstock is so thin, I did 4 layers. So I've got 4 Y's, O's, and U's, and then I would just stack them together. And because they're so thin and fiddly, I decided to back them with the sticky tape, double-sided sticky tape first, so that when I stick them together, it's nice and quick and easy. Now, I felt like the U kind of disappeared on top of those butterflies. It wasn't standing out as much as I wanted it to. So another trick to make it pop a bit more is if you've got that extra layer to kind of back your sentiment with, you can use vellum. And in order for your vellum to not show the adhesive, you can just stick a whole piece of adhesive on the back of it. So I've got some double-sided tape again on the back of my vellum. Then I die cut out that U, and that way I can stick it down onto my cardstock and you don't see any adhesive at all. Now I wanted a bit more shine on my word U, so I used the scrapbook.com glitter pen in the clear, and now I've got this U that is all sparkly and shiny. Now everyone knows, if you've been watching me for a while, I've got strips jars on my desk where I keep all my little strips, and they are perfect for sentiments like this. Now at first I thought stamping black on white would look really lovely and would stand out really nicely. However, because my card base is white, it just kind of blended in again too much and it didn't look quite right. So I decided to, in the end, change it and go with some white embossing powder on black cardstock, and I felt like that popped out how I wanted it. So off screen I used some Wow white embossing powder and heat set onto my piece of black scrap. Then I trimmed down my card front to make sure that it had a nice little border around the edge of it to go on my card base. And then it's just simply a matter of gluing it all together. So stick some liquid glue onto the back of my card front, stick that onto my card base, and then I can add on my sentiments. So I've got that beautiful U, which is nice and see-through once I take that release paper off the back of it, because I did put that double-sided tape on there. I marked off where I wanted to trim my cardstock because I forgot to stick this on before I stuck my card front to the card base. I can go ahead and remove the release sheet from the U, stick that down, add a bit of glue onto my little sentiment strip and stick that across the front. Now I felt like it needed a little bit something else on there to kind of bling it up and go with my little glitter. So I have these kind of flat back sequin, holeless sequins, I think. They're from AliExpress. I'll link everything I can down in the description box below for you if it's available. I'll stick a little link down there for you and you can have a little look and find it. This bag is huge. It's got absolutely tons of these little fun dots. They're very iridescent, kind of holographic almost looking. And you've got about 5 colors in there. So they went really well with the colors that were on my card. I've got my homemade pick-me-up tool, which is just a chopstick with some blue tack on the end. And I put my little glue dots down on my card and then popped on my sequins, and that finished off my card for today. So really nice, simple, easy trick and technique to do where you can use up those stamps that you've got in your stash and create a really fun, beautiful background. Now, if you want to see what my trip to Canada was like, you can stick around now. I've got some photos to share with you. I went off to see my mom for 2 weeks. My husband was amazing, had the kids, looked after them, while I got to take mom to a couple hospital appointments and help sort her out. As you can see, she's doing much better than she was before. The care home she's in is absolutely fantastic, and she is having a lovely time living there. She's out to bingo all the time. When I arrived, I showed up in her room and she wasn't even there because she was out playing bingo. So she's loving it. She's having a great time. So these are some photos of when we went to Jasper. We took my mom, my uncle Jim, and I, who's my mom's youngest brother. We jumped in the car and took her to Jasper for the day and got to see the mountains and some animals and wildlife as well, which was so awesome and lovely. I can't get enough of the mountains. When I go home, I've got to go there. It is my absolute haven. I love it. I feel so calm and at peace every time. And it's just so beautiful. It was about 30 degrees, so we were really loving that air conditioning in the car when we were driving between places. Even drove all the way to the glaciers to check out the glaciers, and it was so sad how much they've receded, but they were still so beautiful. Saw lots of waterfalls on the way, saw some mountain goats as well, which are always great fun to see. And of course elk. I love elk. They're like huge deers, essentially, for those people who don't know what elk are. They're like giant deers, like horse-sized deers. We visited a few lakes, and then we saw a black bear. We were looking everywhere, trying to see if we could see any animals, and all of a sudden this guy's walking right towards us on the road. So we stopped, pulled over, stopped, and waited, and he ended up walking right past the car window. It was so exciting and so cool. This is Katie and James, who kindly let me stay in their house for the 2 weeks I was there, and we went out for a lovely meal together and had such a lovely time. Then we took Uncle Jim and went to Elk Island Park, which is where all the buffalo are, or the bison. And we ended up finding one that was right on the footpath in front of us. So we walked for a whole kilometer on this trail with no one else but just us and this bison in front of us, which was so cool. Loads of them. We saw about 12 in total, and they were all just hanging out around. So we got loads of pictures of these bison and had a great time. Finished off our day with a trip to Olive Garden, of course, because that is the best place to go, and saw a bunch of these little guys as well when we were out and about in the mountains. So I hope you enjoyed that little kind of snapshot of Canada. Thank you so much for joining me tonight for some crafting, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. Take care and have a fantastic weekend. Bye.